Hi everyone, I'm Anurag. I'm back with a brand new guest, Suzanne. Hi Suzanne, how are you doing?
Hello, how are you?
Suzanne, I'm doing good. On a Friday afternoon. Firstly, thank you for agreeing to being on my podcast and on a Friday. That is even more difficult to talk on a Friday afternoon, and I absolutely get it. So thank you for agreeing to come to my podcast and spend this time with me. So Suzanne is CMO of Keesler Credit Union. She has close to 3 decades of experience across the marketing ecosystem, right? I mean, she started her career in brand consulting in the agency side of the world almost 30 years back. After that, she moved into the financial services. She worked for Citibank for close to 7 years and she loved it. That's what I got to understand from her before jumping into the podcast. For a long stint in Citi, she moved to e-commerce. She spent like a few years in with Getty Images before plunging back to the financial services world. Back, she started her introduction to the credit union ecosystem with VyStar. She was in VyStar for a few years before moving to Keesler as a CMO, where she spent like almost 7 months. She's driving the marketing charter for Keesler, setting up the team, helping Keesler position as a market leader. Tell the Keesler story, right? More succinct, better, conclusive. That's pretty much who Suzanne is. Suzanne, I hope I almost added 60% of what you wanted to talk about. If I missed anything, Suzanne, feel free to add.
Sure.
Sounds good. One quick question, Suzanne. With this long-standing years of leadership, right, in marketing, what keeps you going?
I love what I do. I love my job. In fact, ever since I started as a brand consultant, in fact, so I'm the first CMO at Keesler Federal, which is significant and symbolic. And I'm very honored, and obviously no pressure, but yeah, but I think it indicated that they really wanted marketing to be a strategic driver for the business and wanted someone at the table, right, at the chief level. But I have a wonderful boss, the CEO of Keesler Federal, Andy Swoger, and the first day he gave me an amazing kind of coaching session and really encouraged me to think about being a CEO. And I had never thought about that, right? I've been in marketing my whole life, and wow, I think it's very important that you don't artificially put a ceiling over yourself. And it was really wonderful that he kind of completely enlarged the career landscape for me. It was great to hear that. However, it is unlikely that I will move in that direction because I just love marketing so much. And for me, it is very important to be working in a creative field, and working with creative talent. And there's no other part of the business, aside from maybe innovation, areas like innovation labs and things like that, where you're really going to get the exposure to that kind of creativity. And the other piece about marketing, which is wonderful, we actually make things. Believe it or not, we actually make things that like go out into the market in the real world, and you can actually see it. And that is wonderful, like that is a very fulfilling. I think a lot of people in different, career disciplines like finance, their work is very abstract, right? And so they're not really tangibly seeing the output of the work that the team has built, whether it's
Yeah.
designing a new credit card or creating a TV ad or creating a new brand identity. And I mean, this stuff is very tangible at the end of the day, and it's for me, I get a lot of adrenaline out of it and satisfaction. I just can't see like doing something else, I guess.
That's such a fulfilling answer. I mean, doing what you love, that's the best thing that can happen to you. And same for me. When people ask me a question, what keeps me going? Same. I love what I do every single day, and I want to do this for the rest of my life. So it's amazing, right? Um, an overarching question, Suzanne, right? So I mean, you haven't started your career in credit unions, started your career across,
Mhm.
I mean, completely different world in the agency business, hopping down multiple organizations now in a credit union. So what is your journey across, and if you want to talk about your journey across leadership roles in marketing in various organizations, how does it look like? What has been your journey so far?
As you know, you mentioned, I started my career in brand consulting, which is on the agency side, but not necessarily the same as an advertising agency or a creative agency, which
Yeah,
is very different.
yeah.
So, brand consulting is its own sort of unique niche kind of area. I was part of WPP, which is a large media conglomerate, and we were a smallish boutique consulting firm. That experience really was very formative in terms of the type of marketer I became because brand consulting is very similar to management consulting, which is it's a very strong focus on strategy
Yeah.
and building strategy. And the process of building strategy is actually not that different when you're trying to do it for a brand because you know the root of strategy is your positioning strategy, right? It's ultimately strategy is about how do you create a positioning that will give you competitive differentiation, right? So strategy is all about sort of you relative, like if you think about Michael Porter and whatnot, you relative to
Exactly.
the outside dynamics of the market. So that
Absolutely.
fundamentally, we were doing strategy consulting just for it, but in the pursuit of creating a brand strategy versus like a corporate strategy. And so that process and that methodology I have carried with me through all of my different roles as a marketer, and it served me really well because I think coming from a strategy perspective really elevated my ability to be a marketer and I think helped as a senior leader because as you get more, I mean, there's so many aspects of marketing on the execution side, tactics, but as you kind of grow into more of a senior marketing executive, you really are expected to shift into more strategic thinking. And a lot of people struggle with that. They can't get out of sort of their functional kind of habits and tactics. And so that was really key for me. There was a big adjustment for me. I was recruited into Citi to be the head of brand for the Citi Cards division of the US. And that was a very different experience. You and I talked about it before, working in a large global 400,000 organization. I loved the culture there. I loved my time there. I had the opportunity to take after my role at the credit union. At the credit card industry business. I actually took another role at Citi, which was in global marketing. So through that role, I actually worked with all of the markets outside the US. So that was a pure international role. And again, I think for those folks that have not had the opportunity to truly do global marketing, it is incredible. And it was an incredible opportunity. I ended up leading a global campaign for all of Citigroup for the 200th year anniversary of the brand and the organization. And again, this was like I was there 2008. That was my second year at Citi. So that I think everyone knows was a very milestone year of the global financial crisis. And so just being a marketer at that time, I mean, after we went into TARP, we just shut down marketing. The marketing spend was just completely shut down. So as a marketer, it was kind of tough to be in that environment. And so I was really excited to have the ability to develop a campaign that would rehabilitate the brand and create more trust. And we did that through communicating that we were 200 years old because we did a lot of research to try and understand what are the drivers of trust. And we're really surprised to find out that the older an institution is, the more they trust you because you've been around. And so they know you're going to stay. And so that was launched globally. It was launched, locally in 13 different markets like Russia, Colombia, Brazil, China, and other markets. And I really had to travel to those markets multiple times because I was working with their local marketing team. So it was a phenomenal experience. But after that, I decided there are a couple of things that I was seeing. So this is around 2012. I was seeing a big shift in marketing towards digital. And when I say digital, I mean like new, like at the time, like Facebook had just launched. And social media was very scary for brands. Like, oh, how do we get involved in social media? E-commerce was still kind of a relatively new concept, right? So what I realized was, as I was running this global campaign, there was a ton of digital media investment. I think 40% of the budget for this global campaign was digital media, and I had no idea how it worked. I mean, absolutely no idea how it worked. I knew how TV ads worked. I knew how brands worked. I knew how, all sorts of things work in the traditional ad sense, but not how digital works. So I didn't feel like Citi was the organization where, and then, there was a lot of fatigue. I mean, they had gone through 5 CEOs with the crisis and all that. So I was kind of ready, but I ended up moving to just took a flyer and moved to Getty Images, which was an online e-commerce business, and learned a lot there. And then I slowly really moved into more digital marketing products and environments. So I moved into a mobile app and learned about all the mobile app marketing world. At 18 Birdies, we acquired 2 million golfers using Facebook. So that was a major light bulb for me, that Facebook was this incredible acquisition machine. And a lot of people, I think, don't realize how powerful that advertising platform is and what the algorithms do. Now, they have changed those algorithms because of the privacy laws. But back then, it was the Wild West. I mean, the data that we had access to, which is now illegal, right, or now blocked by privacy laws, allowed us to generate lookalike profiles to basically, quintuple the impact that we had of our advertising. We got behavioral data that you just never see, you could never get from traditional media channels. And so that was a real eye-opener. And, I kind of moved into really building out digital channels, and which has now become, so this is like the evolution of marketing. You had your Mad Men era, and the and the advertising agency was king. Throughout the the 80s and the 90s, I mean, the advertising agency was the marketing kind of construct, and that just like the technology platforms that came out of Facebook and Apple and Google, that just kind of really blew that whole thing up. And so now it was very, very different marketing ecosystem. And that's the fascinating thing about marketing, is it's never static. You are never bored. It is, and actually it forces you to actually keep up. And it is hard to keep up with all of the new technologies and tools and data uses that are developing, real time. And so, all of that really kind of led to really getting into performance. It's now called performance marketing, right? So this is
marketing, exactly.
Performance marketing. So this is which did not exist, 15 years ago. I mean, it is new, and it's basically channels that actually you can attribute the actual purchase, whether it's a sale or a conversion. You can actually, definitively attribute to, which is, again, new territory. I mean, again, when you're in the ad world of radio and print and billboards, and you can't do that. It's impossible to do that.
Absolutely.
So that's also the area of marketing. It is constantly evolving. It is, I think, very, very innovative industry. very diverse, which I love. Very, I mean, and it's so this, you have to be a technologist now to be a marketer. Really, you have to be a
So
technologist. Oh, anyway, and so
absolutely.
now it's artificial intelligence, right? So now that's the thing to get ahead of is now how is AI going to impact marketing? And so, that's kind of been a driving thing, which is, I think, for what I encourage marketing leaders and anyone sort of aspiring to, you know, um, continue to grow in the area of marketing is you need to go to conferences, you need to do the thought leadership and
Yeah.
understand. And also, you need to meet other marketing people. I mean, some of the best ideas have come from me meeting other CMOs or other people at conferences and looking at case studies and seeing what other marketers are doing, aka best practices, right? But
Yep. Yep.
it's really important in marketing. So anyway, fast forward, you asked me the leadership journey. Just in a nutshell, my life changed. I got married and I had a baby, and we completely shifted physically down, and we relocated to Jacksonville, Florida, which is where I live, or I still live today. And that's how I ended up working at VyStar Credit Union. And I saw it as an opportunity to get back into financial services, which I love. I love financial services as a product, or a set of products in an industry. But I found the credit union, I'm kind of getting older in my career, and I want to, I want to work with companies that have a purpose and a mission and are actually trying to, improve the lives of people around us. And, that is what I was interested in. And I was actually even, looking at academia, moving into academia or kind of working in a nonprofit environment. And lo and behold, the credit union was the best mix of nonprofit as well as financial services. And so I've been in the credit union category or industry for now since, I guess, 2011, 4 or 5 years. And I really love it. And so after VyStar, there was an incredible opportunity to be for CMO of Keesler Federal, which is the largest credit union in Mississippi, $4.5 billion. And I took that opportunity. And now I'm based here half the time. And so it's been a wild ride. I've really enjoyed it. But it's been not only a movement across different types of companies and business models, but also physically moving across geographies. And there's a big difference between the North and South. Let's just say that. Big difference culturally. So,
Absolutely. I think you've seen both the things, right? One is moving physically as well as how the marketing machinery has changed across, starting with the billboard now
yeah.
to, for the lack of better words, AI driven marketing, right? I mean, you need predictive models to predict which member slash consumer you need to prospect to versus finding cross sell upsell opportunities. These are, I mean, as you rightly mentioned, you need to be a technologist right now to become marketing. Gone are the days where you just put a billboard and wait for brand awareness to happen. Those are good, but still, it has to be measured, right? Hence performance marketing. And it's a amazing journey, Suzanne, and it's great to hear that, right? What I heard, correctly, that you moved physically and hence you joined VyStar. But was there any specific reason behind moving to credit unions from the other side of the world?
The other side of the world, meaning from, like from.
Non-credit unions, yeah.
Oh, non-credits. No, there wasn't I didn't know much about credit unions. I really just kind of assumed that they were going to be the same, and similar to any, like a small bank. I thought I was joining a small regional bank. Could be farthest from the truth. It's just credit unions are completely different. They are not-for-profit organizations. They're really built more as like kind of a cooperative money sharing model. And so the goals of a credit union, the reason why credit unions exist are to help people, help their members, and also help the community. making money is just kind of a side activity that is required to keep the cooperative model going, right? And so that we could continue to help people. That is very different from banking. Banking is our goal is to make money and improve shareholder value, period. That's the
Yeah.
goal.
Yeah.
So very different.
Understand that makes sense. And I mean, obviously, your leadership style has evolved right across the years. Uh, you starting as a brand consultant to Citi to now to a credit union. How has your leadership style evolved across the year? Because one interesting thing which I did catch while we were chatting before the podcast was leaders are not born, but leaders are made, right?
Yes.
So what is your perspective on leadership style and how has it evolved? If you can just, if you want to share with my audience, it'll be great.
Well, I say leadership is my leadership style and approach is a continual work in progress.
That's fine.
To be very honest there. Again, I can only give you the perspective of my personal experience. Everyone and journey, everyone has their own. But yeah, as I mentioned, I think a lot of people think, oh, that person's like a born leader. Well, maybe a tiny percent are just born, like come into the world with leadership skills. But the vast majority, it's trainable. You can train someone to be a great leader.
Absolutely.
And that is one area where I feel like I've benefited from some good training, right? And in terms of how to coach and, how to really build emotional intelligence, which is a very important part of leadership. But over time, like I've just, kind of finessed different tools to just get better and better at building teams, because that's one of the areas that I also find rewarding is building teams. But I like to, and this has evolved over time, and a lot of it is also just, getting older and being a more mature person. But I really like to coach and develop, and I do spend time coaching the team, in particular, like my direct reports. And a lot of people are surprised at that because it's like the first time anyone's coached them. And one of the things I do like to do is I do like to do a DISC assessment. And some people will know what that is, but basically it kind of profiles you into different personality types. And that's incredibly helpful because, now okay, Mary I'm a D, which is 80% dominant. Mary's a C, and so this is how the interactions are going to go because we do fit into these types. And so that is really helpful. But, as I said, it's very trainable. I mean, some people are, naturally empathetic and have natural, kind of emotional control and maturity and, really great emotional intelligence. That is great. And, that's a huge advantage if you already have that kind of built into your DNA. Personally, I don't I've had to work at it. Like I'm not naturally emotionally intelligent. And so, it has been, what I say, like practicing, becoming a better listener and like just slowing down and, doing a lot of practice. I mean, it's like anything, like, you have to practice an instrument, you have to work out at the gym, like leadership is the same exact thing. You have to work at it. But, I think I became a much better leader when I became a mom and just like completely had a better sense of who I was and had more, had a more confidence in my own identity. And I think I mentioned that before because people can tell if you are being authentic or not. And, they want to relate to the person who's the leader. And if you're just kind of being dogmatic and just sort of like constantly, spewing out slogans and cliches and just like, kind of scripted type of language. And I actually did that when I was, in my 20s because I was not as secure or confident. So I would like memorize what other people said. And I would, repeat it, right? Because I thought, oh, wow, that CMO said this, so I'm just going to say that as well, right? And so, but they can tell, when you're being real or not, and it's a big factor in kind of how successful you are as a leader.
That's a very valid point, Suzanne. Uh, in the interest of time, I'll just ask you another couple of questions. One is, I mean, you've taken up this role, Suzanne, very new, right? Coming from VyStar now at Keesler. So, what is your vision while leading marketing for Keesler? Do you share a few points or share your vision with my audience? Because people want to know more about a credit union that never had a CMO, now got a new CMO in place. And if you're brought for a vision or if you have a specific vision for the credit union.
Well, again, I think the objectives of marketing are very in line with the overall company's objectives, and we're in a very kind of aggressive period of growth right now. In particular, regionally, we are expanding into new markets, and so I think there are two components that at the highest level. One is building that growth machine. And really being that engine that kind of supports the growth as we move into these new markets. The second piece, it's the brand comes first. So I'll say the first piece is building the brand, and really, kind of focusing on increase the value of the brand and increasing the equity of the brand. And that's my goal for every role that I've been in. And I think that is kind of the primal goal of a chief marketing officer. But I also think, and I mentioned this, there's a great opportunity to build the brand in a way that also kind of showcases like the beauty of this region, the Gulf Coast. And I think a lot of people don't know about the Gulf Coast. And Keesler Federal is the Gulf Coast. We're not going anywhere. We are, Biloxi and the Gulfport area is our home. And so I think there's a lot of misperceptions about, this area and the South in general. And, at the end of the day, we're always going to be operating in either, Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana. And they are probably the poorest states in the country. And I don't think people realize how diverse it is here, how vibrant it is. The economy is really, I think, thriving. And, I feel like this is a kind of a time like, an opportunity to kind of grow the brand in conjunction with sort of this region and, kind of putting a good light on this region and kind of making it, a place where people want to be, I guess, and kind of
Yeah,
understanding the uniqueness of it.
that's a very strong vision that I can hear, Suzanne. Coupling your vision with the region is growing, and hence Keesler is growing.
Yeah.
Acquiring prospects to acquiring members across different areas is what your focus is. This is very interesting. Uh, Now, you've spent some time in the credit union ecosystem, right? I mean, all of us know about the current economy, right? I mean, there was a rate cut, good, possibly another will happen very soon. Uh, but still, a lot of M&As happening across credit unions to multiple nuances, right? So, what are your 2 cents on the credit union movement, and where do you think will the credit union movement, go ahead? What do you think as a whole?
Yeah. I think credit unions are kind of the last bastion of local banking. It's a wonderful category in financial services. Credit unions are very unique. They're truly built to help people, and that is the primary mission. However, they do also need to sustain and survive as a business, and they need to be well capitalized, and they need to have enough capital to kind of survive for the long term. And I think it's just becoming more and more challenging for smaller credit unions to survive in this environment. with the, multiple dynamics, but definitely the interest rate environment is a big one, but also like the cost of funds. And so I think it will go through, I think we're, in the early stages of a kind of a massive consolidation. We're going to start seeing a lot more consolidation of credit unions. Having been in the banking world, banking really becomes a lot more efficient when it scales, right? And so that's why you see so many of the more traditional banks, merging as well. But you really do need scale to kind of be a stable, solid institution and well capitalized, right? And so I think that's going to be what we're going to see. And it is what it is. I mean, I would imagine that 10 years from now, probably you'll see maybe half the credit unions. I mean, I'm just making a prediction.
Yeah.
But it'll just be, there'll be bigger institutions, right, and fewer of them. But they will potentially, have more endurance and kind of be able to survive. But a lot of credit unions, like, I have to, kind of give them kudos. I mean, you've had credit unions that were founded in the 40s and the 50s,
Yes,
and have
absolutely.
been, successful for decades, right? But I think it's just getting much harder. I think it's just getting much harder for a variety of reasons. So I think that's what we're going to see.
That sounds very reasonable, Susanna, and that was a very well-rounded podcast covering almost all tenets of credit unions to your movement, to your career, from billboards to performance marketing. This was an interesting one. Susan, thanks a lot for joining us in today's
You're welcome.
podcast. I appreciate it.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.